Reckless driving and passing causes injuries to our client so severe she has a concussion, and witnesses state, "I can't believe you're still alive." We're here today with John Mobley, one of the attorneys at Shanesmithlaw. We're going to talk about one of our client victories, Miss PH. John was able to get a great settlement for Miss PH, and we're going to talk about that here today as well. So, John, tell me a little bit about Miss PH.
So Miss PH was a young client who came to us badly injured about 2 days after her collision, seeking help.
Okay. And what kind of collision was it? What kind of car wreck?
So the car wreck was pretty severe. She was rear-ended at about 45 miles per hour when the driver made a reckless pass of another vehicle, slamming into the back of her car.
Okay. And what were her injuries? I know you said she was hurt pretty bad. So what were they from the beginning?
So because of the nature and extent of the property damage in that 45 mile per hour collision, PH did sustain some pretty serious injuries in this accident. That damage to the car actually caved in her bumper, and it deployed the airbags. So she sustained bruising to her body that spanned multiple arms, back, front side of her body as well. And the impact was so severe that it actually concussed PH.
Oh, wow.
She ended up waking up at the scene of the accident with a witness making statement that they couldn't believe she was alive. So it was very serious impact. She was lucky to walk away that day eventually, but she unfortunately sustained neck and back injuries after the accident that we had to get her into treatment for.
I know you talked about she had a lot of bruising on the front portion of her body. Did she think to take those pictures of the bruises, or were we able to talk to her about taking pictures of the bruises before they faded so that you had those, or no?
Absolutely. That is one of the first things, Shane, that we do in our introductory calls, is that we make sure to remind clients to document all that evidence, because it fades as time goes on. Bruises heal, property damage gets repaired. So luckily, in this case, PH took our advice, had a family member document all of the bruises she sustained to her body so that we could preserve that evidence to help her pain and suffering case. Absolutely crucial to a case.
Okay, great. And I know you said she had a concussion at the scene. Did that impact her recovery? How did that play into the whole case overall?
Absolutely. So the concussion actually ended up being one of the bigger parts of her pain and suffering claim. Anyone that's had a concussion or dealt with one understands the nature and impact that those types of injuries have on you. They can affect your sleep, they can affect your memory, headaches, sensitivity to light. They're very important injuries to document and often get overlooked. However, studies show they happen sometimes, in 40% of all car accidents. A very important injury to document that can have a huge effect on people's lives. And it definitely had a large effect on PH's life here. And luckily, we were also able to get her treated for that as well and get her with a very good and respected neurologist.
Okay. And what was sort of what was the impact of the concussion had on her for somebody who might not know what those signs and symptoms are?
The symptoms of concussion, post-concussion syndrome, and sometimes, mild to moderate TBIs can really run on the full spectrum of things like inability to remember things, your changes in sleep patterns, your headaches, just a lot of things, inability to focus at work. That's how these things manifest when you have a head injury. So it's important, and what we like to do with our clients is to give them basically TBI checklists so that they can monitor and track these symptoms, because it's a lot to keep up with. And sometimes we even have family members of the person who sustained the injury help track those, because if you have a head injury, sometimes you don't know you have a head injury, or it's hard to see the changes in yourself and be kind of a fair observer of your own of yourself. So we get a family member or a close loved one to help them assist and fill out that list and grade their symptoms.
Okay. And I know you said that we were able to get her some treatment with a neurologist over that. So it sounds like they were able to do some stuff to help minimize and deal with the symptoms of the concussion, rather than just telling her just basically deal with it or ignore it or it'll just go away.
Absolutely. Luckily, we're living in a day and age where concussion therapy has really made large strides. There's a lot of options out there now for people that sustain head injuries, whether it be hyperbaric oxygen chambers. They even use magnets on the head sometimes these days, as well as actually getting with the neuropsych, as well as new basic breakthroughs in imaging that can see injuries to your head that previous imagings could not show. So there's a lot of things to do to treat a head injury these days.
So it sounds like what you said is if they get in early, we can actually get the imaging that shows the injury to the brain or to the head. So no longer does somebody just have to sort of take somebody's word for it that they were hurt, or they got these symptoms. It's like objective proof that they suffered the concussion and the injury.
Absolutely. And that's the exciting part, from our perspective, as well as what we get to tell victims in these accidents that we represent is, listen, if you get in and do the recommended treatment that this neurologist recommends, we can actually pinpoint the injury your brain sustained, versus back in the old days where when we just didn't have that, we had to go on the symptoms alone. Now, in conjunction, we can look with the imaging where the injury was on the brain, see what part of your body or things that brain portion controls. And if that symptom then manifests, we know, well, look, there's bruising on this part of the brain. And now the brain that is injured there controls this portion of the body, or balance, or impulsivity, or things of that nature. So it really, in conjunction with each other, can help shore up a client's claim.
And it would seem like it would make a lot of clients feel better, just knowing that, yes, there is an injury there. It's not, I'm just making it up, or it's not, this phantom illness or whatever. There's proof that, hey, I actually did get hurt. It's all true. The symptoms are real. Make them just feel better about the situation is what would be my guess.
Could not agree more. Absolutely. And that's the exciting part for a lot of our clients, is that they get answers to these weird things in symptoms that they're experiencing. They don't have to just end the case not knowing what is causing these unusual symptoms. They get answers at the end of the day, and they get actual diagnoses and results. So that's very important.
Well, it sounds like you were able to do all this from his PH. What kind of result were you able to get with the insurance company?
So we actually did not receive a lot of pushback from the insurance company, because we really did a lot of due diligence and preparation and organization on the front end. PH was a wonderful client who did everything that we recommended. So it made our jobs a lot easier once we got to negotiations. The insurance company reviewed our claim and demand and could see that, we had all of our I's dotted and all of our T's crossed in everything that we submitted to them. And it was really airtight. So it made the decision for the insurance company to tender all of their available insurance policy limits to us, which means giving all the available money to us on the table rather quickly once they saw the extent and the nature and the diagnoses that we presented for PH.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful, the best results you could possibly get from Miss PH. It sounds like you got answers to what her injuries were, so at least she knows about her symptoms and why they occurred. It sounds like a great result for her. Great job. What's something you learned from this that you can take going forward to help other clients, or you would tell people, hey, pay attention to this if you're in an accident?
Absolutely. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but really hitting hard the preservation of evidence early on in the case really won the day here, Shane. We were able to preserve a couple of those witness statements that I mentioned that really helped show the severity of the accident and the nature of the injuries, as well as documenting those injuries and the property damage, which like we talked about earlier, those fade over time. So when we can preserve those and include those into our demand packages, it really helps the insurance company in their evaluation to then give us all of their money.
Great result, John. Sounds like great work from SPH. And great overall. To our listeners, thanks for listening. Hope you learned something from this. Document the injuries, document everything basically for an accident. Remember, if you're in pain, call Shane, 980-999-9999, or you can order our free book, The Victim Survive Guide to Car Accidents, at shanesmithlaw.com. We'll be going over another case next week, another client victory. So click down below so you see when it comes out.
980-999-9999. 980-999-9999. Shanesmithlaw. In pain, call Shane.